The girls step forward to defend Magnus. Seeing this, Raishin is transported back to a past memory where his training room is set on fire, resulting in his father's severe injury. Raishin repeatedly calls out for Nechiko. He then calls out to Magnus, expressing that he traveled from the opposite side of the earth just to see him. Magnus states that Raishin is mistaken, but Raishin tries to offer a token of friendship. However, 6 automatons interpret this as an attack and surround Raishin, pointing their swords at his neck. Magnus, grateful for the gesture, accepts it. Later, Raishin feels disappointed during his shower, realizing that he can never defeat Magnus as he is a one-man force controlling 6 automatons simultaneously. Magnus is also a high-ranked Weissman candidate. Yaya boosts his confidence by hugging him and assuring him that he will win the evening party battles. The next morning, Raishin encounters Officer Felix Kingsford on his way to class. Felix offers Raishin a deal, initially refused by Raishin. However, Felix offers him an entry qualification for the evening party, causing Raishin to reconsider. Felix tells Raishin to meet him after school. During class, Tyrant sees Felix and Raishin having a conversation while Sigmund discusses how polite and good Raishin is. After class, Raishin meets Felix, who explains the ongoing situation at school. He informs Raishin that 26 people have gone missing, and their automatons were destroyed due to Cannibal Candy, a dangerous puppeteer. Felix asks Raishin to find and take down Cannibal Candy. Lysette, a member of the committee, arrives and informs Felix that they have discovered a half-eaten doll. Sigmund and Tyrant are also present at the scene. Lysette privately warns Raishin to be careful of Charlotte Tyrant, as her automaton is a band doll built using organic parts, and Sigmund has consumed humans, burning them to the ground. She further reveals that Cannibal Candy is also a band doll user. That night, Charlotte approaches Raishin's room by knocking on his window with a rock, asking him for a date. Raishin tells her to meet him after school the next day, which angers Yaya. However, the next day, Charlotte takes him to the place where the half-eaten doll was found. She explains that Raishin is bait for Cannibal Candy and assures him that she will take care of him. She instructs Raishin to relax and allow Cannibal Candy to attack him. Charlotte states that she is just helping out, which prompts a reaction from Raishin. They go on a date in town, holding hands and leaving the automatons behind. They dine together and Charlotte discusses Raishin's combat style. Raishin explains that he specializes in group strategy and shares that he rushed through his training, focusing more on martial arts knowledge. During their journey back to school, Charlotte admits that Felix helped her as a disciplinary officer, unintentionally making enemies for her. Upon their return, they discover that Cannibal Candy has made a move, and they come to know that Cannibal has downed another automaton. Raishin returns to his room and embraces Yaya, relieved that she is safe. He also surprises her with a pair of shoes he bought during their date. Later, Raishin receives a call from Lysette, who informs him that Charlotte is missing. Meanwhile, he encounters Shauko and her automaton, Irori, at the door. Shauko explains that an automaton never truly dies unless its heart of Eve is stopped. She reveals that Cannibal Candy is a formidable opponent, and the Academy is suppressing information about the case. Raishin shares his concerns about Charlotte being alone and expresses his desire to help her. Shauko removes Yaya's shackles and informs Raishin about her unparalleled superhuman strength. She warns him to be cautious of wind and water as they are natural enemies of Yaya. Together, they set out to find Charlotte. Shauko explains how Raishin ended up under her servitude in puppetry and how she granted his wish by giving him Yaya of the Moon. She also reveals his spiritual powers and discusses his elder brother, Tenzin. On their way, Raishin encounters Lysette, who informs him that they found a bunch of magic circuits in Charlotte's room. Raishin asks for Lysette's cooperation, and they head to the storage facility for vital machinery. Raishin instructs Yaya to stay outside while he tries to gauge Lysette's reaction when he asks about the latest incident involving Cannibal Candy. Lysette claims innocence, but Raishin quickly snatches the key and heads to Lysette's room, enveloped in white mist. There, he discovers that Lysette is a band doll. Lysette launches multiple attacks, injuring Raishin. Suddenly, an alarm sounds and guards storm into the room. Lysette accuses Raishin of working with Cannibal Candy and orders the guards to secure Yaya as well. Meanwhile, Charlotte encounters an automaton, mistaking it for Cannibal Candy. She attacks with a luster flare to capture him. Felix arrives and tells her it was a trap, calling her Cannibal Candy. While lying on the stretcher, Raishin taps into his ultimate power to control Yaya. On the other side, Felix orders the guards to handle the situation while he confronts Charlotte himself. Alone, Felix reveals his own automaton, unveiling himself as Cannibal Candy. His plan was to eliminate Charlotte and Raishin, as their automatons and Felix's automaton predator share similarities. Felix launches an attack on Charlotte, but Sigmund defends her and gets injured. Felix launches another attack, but Raishin and Yaya disrupt it, causing it to fail. On their way to Charlotte, Yaya reveals that Sigmund informed her about Charlotte's search for remnants of her family. Yaya explains that they used to live in the house of the Count, surrounded by numerous automatons. However, one day, a dog automaton injured a boy of high status, resulting in severe consequences. The automaton's abilities were stripped, and many of their automatons were dismantled. During that incident, Charlotte's younger sister and parents went missing while she was away at boarding school. This traumatic event heavily impacted Charlotte, and she now uses her scholarship money to try to retrieve the hearts of her family members. Hearing these truths shocks Raishin, and he becomes determined to reunite her family and become a Weissman solely for their sake. The battle between Felix and Raishin begins, with Raishin using his 48 whistling thrust attack alongside Yaya. They manage to damage Felix's automaton's iron mask, revealing a girl automaton named Eliza. Raishin instructs Eliza to stay out of the fight, considering her only a tool. However, she refuses and retaliates with an attack. Raishin counters with his 36 fiery thrusts, but Eliza defends herself using a water spell named Undine's. Suddenly, Felix launches a direct attack on Raishin, injuring him. Undeterred, Raishin executes a 24 fiery thrusts attack. After multiple exchanges of attacks, Raishin sustains heavy injuries from a direct hit by Felix's automaton. Unbeknownst to them, Magnus and Professor Kimberly observe the entire battle from above. Raishin rises once again, unleashing his full power in an attempt to defeat Felix. He tries to land a direct punch on Felix but fails. In response, Felix's automaton launches an attack on Yaya with an iron baller. However, Yaya counters with a 48 pinnacle thrusts attack, nullifying the attack. After numerous clashes between the automatons, Eliza transforms herself into white mist and captures Yaya. Initially, this hurts and absorbs Yaya's magic with her blood. However, Yaya retaliates with a flying attack, revealing that two magics cannot coexist within a single body. This weakens Eliza, which turns out to be Raishin's plan from the beginning. Raishin and Yaya conclude the battle with their final blow, the pinnacle thrust body breaker. Felix attempts to shoot Raishin with a revolver, but Raishin punches him, resulting in Felix's defeat. Mrs. Kimberly and Magnus discuss Raishin, with Magnus mentioning the friendship token and how throwing down the gauntlet is seen as a challenge for revenge. Magnus considers Raishin an upset in the upcoming evening party. In the entry qualifications ceremony, Raishin ranks 4th and is acknowledged as a Weissman candidate. Mrs. Kimberly assigns Raishin the codename Second Last, and he is proven innocent among all. Raishin is recognized as a hero and gauntleted, and Lysette presents him with a congratulatory gift. During the night, a girl accompanied by a wolf automaton lies on Raishin's bed, claiming to be there to assassinate him. The following morning, Raishin discusses the situation with Lysette, who reveals that the girl's name is Frey. Frey is a third-year student ranked 99th with the codename Silent Roar, and she might be intending to eliminate Raishin before the evening party. They encounter Frey and her brother Loki fighting with their automatons, and Yaya intervenes to defend against an attack. Raishin and Loki engage in a bitter conversation, exchanging insults before parting ways. Tyrant Rex appears alongside Raishin, and Frey expresses her gratitude to him for saving her, mentioning Loki's grudge against her. Mrs. Kimberly conducts a supplementary class for Raishin, emphasizing the importance of the upcoming evening party. She advises him to take it seriously, highlighting the challenge of being in the 100th position, as the 100th ranked participant will face the 99th ranked combatant. If one participant can remove the other's gauntlet, the gauntlet-less participant will be eliminated. Only high-ranked participants have the option to skip fights. The next morning, Raishin wakes up to find Frey once again beside him on his bed, discovering a knife hidden in her attire, which he considers an assassination attempt. Lysette visits Raishin to inform him that a company called Divine Works sponsors Loki and Frey, holding the patent for a magic circuit called Sonic. She advises Raishin to destroy both of them. On his way back home, Raishin is attacked by Frey's out-of-control automaton. However, he manages to render it unconscious using a stun grenade. Frey apologizes for her actions and swiftly escapes. Later, Raishin and Yaya meet with Komurasaki, Yaya's younger sister, who was sent by Shauko. Komurasaki requests mana from Raishin and heads out on a mission, leaving Yaya at the dormitory. With the help of mana, they move stealthily through town and arrive at a location where many dog-like creatures are present. While sitting with Sigmund, Yaya expresses her love for Raishin and her desire to become human to be with him. However, during their conversation, Yaya is suddenly attacked. As a result, Yaya suffers severe injuries, and Shouko and Mrs. Kimberly witness the entire incident. Meanwhile, Raishin and Komurasaki arrive in a room where they encounter a talking dog automaton that can even see them while they are in stealth mode. Raishin introduces himself, and the dog reveals that it is a prototype of the Garm series, to which her son Ravi also belongs, and they are both equipped with sonic circuits that enable them to perceive through sound. The dog automaton, whose name is Yomi, explains that she was ordered to be dismantled. Raishin informs Yomi about Frey's assassination attempt on him and convinces them to join him. Meanwhile, Yaya regains consciousness from her injuries and asks Sigmund to call Raishin for her repairs. While Raishin is away, Lysette attempts to offer her mana to Yaya to facilitate her repair, but it fails. Mrs. Kimberly seeks out the Academy's doctor to inquire about Raishin's condition. The doctor informs her that Raishin's recovery rate is slow and his body is not very efficient. Mrs. Kimberly then strikes a deal with the doctor, offering a bag full of money to betray the Academy and the British government. On another front, Yomi shows Raishin Frey's room and introduces him to her family, highlighting Frey's kindness and sweetness. Yomi suggests that Frey might be attempting to reunite her family through her actions. She also shows Raishin some orphan children with a high affinity for mana. They escape from the room through a garbage disposal chute, with Yomi accompanying them. Yomi informs Raishin that Frey cannot win the evening party as a different model called Cherubim would be nominated in that case. While on their way, they are attacked by some automatons, but they manage to find an escape route, leaving Yomi behind. It is revealed that the previous attack on Yaya was orchestrated by Loki on the orders of his father, due to Raishin snooping around their secrets. They also attempted to kill Raishin, but he successfully escapes with Komurasaki. Afterward, Raishin returns to his room and encounters Shouko, who reveals that she had been using him to gather more information about divine works. She explains the concept of using living beings as vessels for combat, where actual body parts provide sustenance. Shouko emphasizes the excellence of sonic circuits, their mana cost, and the burden they place on the puppeteer. She then orders Raishin to steal Ravi's magic circuit and destroy it. The evening party begins with all the candidates for the 49th commencement night. Raishin faces his first opponent, Loki, ranked 99th. Raishin initiates his first attack, the 24th Whistling Thrust, and the opponent Automaton launches multiple attacks on Yaya. Raishin follows up with a 48 Pinnacle Thrust, damaging the opponent's automaton. However, the opponent strikes back, severely injuring Raishin with his sword. In the midst of the chaos, Yaya asks Raishin for mana and urges him to do something so she can easily defend against the attacks. While dodging an attack, Yaya positions herself in front of Raishin, requesting his mana. In that moment, Raishin remembers Ravi and takes the sword upon himself. As a result, Raishin's gauntlet falls and he sustains severe injuries. Yaya, overcome with despair, begins to cry. Loki and his automaton leave without taking Raishin's gauntlet. Later, Loki's father orders him to dismantle Ravi into pieces in their next fight, expressing anger over the failure to obtain Raishin's gauntlet. Meanwhile, Raishin is taken to receive medical care, and Yaya becomes uncontrollable due to her concern for him. Irori arrives and reassures Yaya that Raishin will be okay. Lysette spends the entire night sleeping on a bench, waiting for Raishin. The next fight commences between Loki and Frey with their automatons. Both sides launch multiple attacks, but Ravi's attacks prove to be significantly weaker against Loki's automaton. As Loki prepares to deliver a final blow, Frey exhausts her mana excessively by converting her own blood into mana, making Ravi more powerful. However, Ravi attempts to kill Loki, only to be saved by Raishin and Yaya intervening in the fight. Loki orders them to stay out of it, but Raishin warns him that the more he attacks Ravi, the more it consumes Frey, leading to her demise. They manage to subdue Ravi by rendering Frey unconscious, and both are later admitted to the medical center, where Shouko helps save their lives and takes possession of the sonic circuit. It is revealed that both Frey and Loki are orphan children with a high affinity for mana. Raishin attempts to halt Divine Works to prevent such tragedies, but Shouko warns him that the owner of Divine Works is far more powerful than he realizes, and that he was a Weissman 20 years ago. Raishin meets with Frey and assures her that Ravi will be alright, emphasizing that she is not weak. On their way, Lysette attempts to express her love to Raishin but ends up being insulted. Nevertheless, Raishin and Yaya proceed to Divine Works with the assistance of Komurasaki in stealth mode. They escape from the academy, and upon arriving, they discover that all the children are missing. Loki attacks the guards and helps Raishin and Yaya escape. They engage in a foolish conversation while Loki's automaton defends them. Loki ends the debate by stating that they are both idiots and need to... She arrests Bronson for his illegal experiments and explains how she developed this illegal organization, expressing regret. She tells him to forget about being a Weissman from now on and commends the students for their efforts. The next morning, Raishin wakes up in the hospital along with Loki and Yaya. Frey arrives with her 5 doggies, having won all her battles. Charlotte calls Raishin an absurd man and tells him to stay out of her way. She then asks Raishin to shower her with his lust, and he runs away, angering Yaya. During the 100th anniversary of the Royal Academy, Headmaster Rutherford is invited to give a speech. However, a large dragon resembling Charlotte appears and launches a powerful attack on the clock tower, causing it to collapse and sending people into a panic. Frey tells Raishin that she is likely Charlotte's little sister, Henry, who has attempted suicide multiple times, and reveals that Charlotte has been missing since yesterday. Raishin, Frey, and Yaya set out to find Charlotte, and they discover that Henry has disappeared from the girls' dormitory. Frey finds a clue in Henry's room, a pair of panties, and has her dogs sniff them to track Henry's whereabouts. The dogs lead them to a tree where Henry is attempting to commit suicide. While Raishin and Yaya engage in a childish argument, Henry manages to escape. Frey returns to the evening party and Raishin and Yaya continue their search for Charlotte. They eventually find her and she warns Raishin to stay out of her affairs or she will kill him. It is revealed that Charlotte is the one who destroyed the clock tower. When Raishin asks about her feelings for him and why she protected him, she runs away with tears in her eyes. She recalls how she took Henry's place and played a role as instructed by Henry. Later, Raishin and Yaya leave for the evening party, where they discover that Frey has avoided fighting them and left the battleground earlier. Meanwhile, in Henry's room, she attempts suicide with a pair of scissors. Suddenly, Charlotte arrives and reassures Henry that she will end everything the next day, and they will live together again with their mother. The next day, Raishin meets with Mrs. Kimberly to discuss Charlotte and those who could be manipulated. Mrs. Kimberly reveals that her target was to eliminate the headmaster, and that Charlotte is being manipulated by the headmaster's enemies. Raishin theorizes that it could be the Kingsford family associated with Felix, who wants to regain power in politics. Mrs. Kimberly informs him that their plan is to turn black into gray, as the Ballous, Charlotte's family, were previously involved in the murder of Prince Edmund due to a dog automaton. The royal families see them as murderers, but there is no concrete proof against them. Mrs. Kimberly advises Raishin to stay out of the matter, but he starts thinking about finding the proof. The next morning, Raishin sees Henry running and then witnesses the headmaster inspecting the clock tower. He orders Yaya to inform Shauko and follows Henry, observing Charlotte launching an attack with Sigmund. Raishin runs to save Henry from harm. Yaya, filled with worry, runs towards the blast to check on Raishin, but Mrs. Kimberly stops her, suspecting her involvement. Meanwhile, Charlotte and Sigmund sit on a roof after the attack, and Charlotte regrets the lives she has taken. They are spotted by guards, but a mysterious man appears and helps them escape. He takes them to a woman who reveals that Charlotte was trying to kill the headmaster and realizes that she nearly killed her own sister, Henry. Raishin and Henry, on the other hand, are safe and explore the basement, where illegal experiments were conducted and people were buried alive. However, it is later revealed that Raishin created this story to scare Henry. Mrs. Kimberly and Yaya meet with Kimberly's old colleague, who explains the situation to them. They suggest bringing the headmaster under their protection. While Raishin and Henry search for a path to escape, Henry gets injured, and they take a break. Suddenly, a girl in a mask named Magnus Automaton appears and questions Raishin if he is an enemy of the headmaster. Raishin recognizes this girl as Nechiko, whom he had seen before during training. Magnus appears with the headmaster, revealing that they are all trapped in this mess. Raishin informs Henry that Magnus killed his family and his little sister, and he came to the academy to seek revenge. He tells Henry not to reveal this to anyone. Mrs. Kimberly asks Loki to guard someone, promising a reward in return. Raishin is then attacked by a man with gray glasses, but Magnus Automaton named Hautaro comes to his defense, leading to a fight. Raishin notices that there is no puppetry involved, which piques his curiosity about Nechiko. The guards arrive, and the man manages to escape. Raishin and the others surface successfully. Later that night, Raishin reveals his engagement with a girl from the Akabane clan to Yaya, leaving Yaya and Frey outside the door feeling saddened. Raishin goes to face his opponent at the evening party, but the opponent does not show up. Meanwhile, the girl who attempted to kill the headmaster through Charlotte sees Raishin taking Henry from her room through the window. She orders her servant to retrieve Henry and kill Raishin. Charlotte questions the girl's identity, to which she refers to herself as a shadow and Felix's cousin. Raishin continues to run with Yaya and Henry on his shoulder, having planned bait for the antagonists. The servant, who calls himself Butler Shin, appears and they engage in a fight. Raishin and Yaya find themselves struggling in their battle against Shin as he proves to be fast and strong, easily evading their attacks. Loki and Cherubim arrive as backup to help, but even Loki's multiple attacks cannot match Shin's speed, and Cherubim's speed is no match for the butler's kicks. Raishin, already injured, and his allies are beaten badly, with Shin toying with them and preventing them from landing a single blow. However, Frey arrives with her automaton led by Ravi and forces Shin to retreat. Frey expresses her gratitude to Loki for saving Raishin, but he reveals that he is only doing so because Mrs. Kimberly instructed him to. Meanwhile, Shin and his young master have a conversation where Shin apologizes for not succeeding in capturing Henry and Raishin. They discuss the impossibility of assassinating the headmaster directly, as Magnus is by his side and is much more powerful than Shin and the others. The Kingsford Felix family has chosen Charlotte to assassinate the headmaster, and if she fails, they plan to shift the blame onto the Granville Char family. The Kingsfords are secretly planning to research 2 forms of God within the academy. When Raishin wakes up, he finds Henry sitting beside him. She informs him that if they don't kill the headmaster by morning, she and her sister will be killed. Raishin decides to help Charlotte and Henry. He leaves his room and asks Frey if he can borrow one of her dogs because he wants to find someone. Frey summons Riviera and leaves Henry in her care. Raishin and Yaya venture out and come across Shauko Drank, who tries to stop them but fails to convince them. Shauko slaps Raishin out of concern for his safety and walks away. On the roof, Charlotte is feeling down and talking to Sigmund about her emotions when suddenly Raishin and Yaya appear. Raishin asks Charlotte out on a date and suggests returning to the dorm. Charlotte explains that they have no choice but to kill the headmaster and motivates Raishin to join her cause. They engage in a small fight, launching multiple attacks against each other. Raishin urges Charlotte to fight together against their enemies, but she initially refuses. In the end, Raishin convinces Charlotte to fight alongside him. Suddenly, Shin appears and questions Charlotte about why she hasn't killed the headmaster yet. She responds by telling him that she has changed her mind. The fight ensues, with both Charlotte and Raishin utilizing their abilities to overcome Shin. However, he defends himself successfully with his powerful kicks, overpowering Raishin, Yaya, and Sigmund. Charlotte keeps searching for the puppeteer controlling Shin, to which he replies, "What you see in front of you is a divine mechanics, the machine doll." It is revealed that Shin is not an automaton with full autonomous abilities, but rather a hybrid of a machine and a doll. Meanwhile, Henry attempts to harm herself again, but Frey intervenes and explains to her the selfless nature of Raishin, who has risked his life to protect them. On the other side, Raishin launches multiple attacks on Shin, but he continuously teleports and delivers a powerful punch to Sigmund, causing him to fall. All their attacks prove ineffective, and Charlotte's mana is running low. Raishin devises a strategy for a decisive blow. Firstly, he manages to bring Shin to the ground with Yaya's assistance. Then, Raishin employs his ultimate technique, the Fiery Thrust Moonlit Petal Storm, empowering Yaya to unleash a barrage of punches and kicks that injure Shin. Suddenly, Sigmund launches Luster Fire at him, resulting in Shin's defeat. It is revealed that there is a puppeteer nearby controlling Shin. Raishin summons Riviera, who successfully locates the young master. They capture both of them, but the duo manages to teleport away. Shin kicks Raishin, preparing for a final attack, but Yaya unlocks her full potential and saves him by launching multiple counterattacks. Shin and the young master escape. It is later revealed that the young master is the 87th candidate in the evening party, Alice Bernstein. Later, Magnus and Mrs. Kimberly engage in a conversation, where Magnus admits to attempting to create a machine doll 2 years ago. Kimberly refers to Magnus as Tenzin Akabane, the person whom Raishin seeks revenge against. Magnus walks away denying the facts, while Raishin vows to continue pursuing him. Raishin is then transferred to the medical center for care, where the girls engage in a playful argument about breast size, disrupting Loki's self-study. Mrs. Kimberly arrives and informs them about the ongoing situation, revealing that the clock tower will be rebuilt thanks to the donation of a millionaire. Henry will be with her in her lab, and she promises to take care of her. The first season ends with happiness on everyone's faces, and a sense of curiosity regarding Raishin's future encounters with Shin and his puppeteer. That concludes the anime recap. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I'm out.
翔子さんに合わせる顔がない。
翔子いつも翔子のことばっか